Facebook. So give me one moment. And my goodness, make sure I am putting this on the right place. Sorry, tough to do this on a single screen. I apologize for the delay.
And welcome everybody. Feel free to say hi in the chat pod. I know some of you guys have, but we welcome it. And we're so excited you're here and get started. We're gonna talk about biodiversity and in your backyard, your schoolyard, wherever you are. Talk about some really great projects tonight. So feel free to say hi. You can, if you want, share where you're joining from. I'm in the North Texas area right now, north of Dallas, Fort Worth. So for City Nature Challenge 2023 that starts next week, I'll be on Team DFW. If you're planning to do that, we'll talk about that tonight. But if you're already planning on it, feel free to share what team you might be on. And we'll get this. There they are. Yeah. So biodiversity in your own backyard, and we could say, or schoolyard, or wherever you're located, you can survey biodiversity. So next slide, we'll go ahead and get started. We are excited that Citizen Science Month is here, Earth Month is here, and this month, all month long, we're celebrating the science that we can do together. And so tonight we'll go over some great experiences that you can do in your backyard, your schoolyard, wherever you are, where you can contribute to conservation and biodiversity research. So next slide. Yeah, so just a a global thank you to everyone involved, you guys, the organizations up there. It couldn't happen without everybody, right? So Global Citizen Science Month celebrates science for all, science for everybody. We are so thankful to all who participate, you guys, supporters, engaging in these global efforts to make our world a better place through science, collaboration, service, and of course, collective action. Next slide. And actually, I will pass it to Sandy for just one moment because she is representing the amazing Science Friday today. We're so grateful. Sandy, do you want to give a Science Friday shout out?
Yeah, real quick. Hi, everybody. I'm Sandy from Science Friday. I'm the education program manager there. Science Friday is a weekly broadcast where we work to take all the amazing science that is going on in the world and share it out with our audience. So in addition to that, we have a podcast, and my job is to take that cool science and bring it to you as educators. So definitely check out our website, sciencefriday.com, where you can find all of our events. You can find copies of our radio show, you can find podcasts, you can find all the free educational resources we offer. So yeah, give us a listen. It's a lot of fun. And if you ever have ideas for segments or for educational resources or just questions that you want answered on the radio, you can always tweet at us or email us or send it in through the website. So definitely check that out.
Perfect. Thanks, Sandy. Yeah, and tonight we are so excited to have some very special guests joining us. Oh, and next slide. So yeah, we have Sandy, of course, from Science Friday. Caroline's here from SciStarter. They're with me as fellow moderators. We have very special guests from the Team OurEcho International. We're going to have some really cool updates that they have to share tonight, as well as Dr. Colleen Hitchcock is joining, and she's going to share insights related to iNaturalist and the City Nature Challenge. We are so excited. And I have to say, iNaturalist, the City Nature Challenge, and OurEcho International, and all of their programs, they really, all of those really help us take the pulse of our planet, our water planet. So let's give our amazing guests a welcome. And for our guests, if you want, feel free to say hi, give a brief shout out, hello, intro. And actually, while they say hi on audio, we can go to the next slide, because we also, for any educators in the audience, we want to hear from you too. Tell us, where you teach, what you teach. We'd love to, as a global PLN. Oh, and thanks, Sandy's got a poll up. Let us know where you teach. And while you guys are filling that out, I'll let everybody, the other speakers, give a hello on audio.
And really quickly, if you're watching on Facebook, you can let us know where you teach as well. And don't be shy about putting questions in the Facebook comments. We're monitoring that live stream as well. So we really want to hear from you.
Yeah, thanks, Caroline, for mentioning that. Perfect.
With that being said, I'll pass the mic to Colleen from Brandeis if she wants to briefly say hello.
Nice.
Hi, everybody. I'm Colleen Hitchcock. I'm joining you from just north of Boston. Really excited to kind of share my perspectives on the City Nature Challenge and iNaturalist, and especially working with students all the way from K all the way through college level.
Awesome. Love that.
And then since she's next on my screen, let's pass the mic to Harper.
Hi, everyone. I'm Harper Fortgang. I'm a freshman at the Nueva School, and I live in San Francisco. I'm part of OurEcho International, and I founded and lead Project Super Plants, which I'll be talking more about later today. I'm very excited to be part of this.
Excellent.
Yay! And then we got Reilly.
Hi, I'm Reilly Hollern. I'm a student at Windermere Prep. I'm in 11th grade, and I'm going to present about my project World Perspective Solutions that is a part of OurEcho's OurEcho Challenge.
Excellent.
Fantastic. And then last but certainly not least, Casey.
Hi, I'm Casey Gaylord-Opaleski. I'm with OurEcho International, just here helping out Harper and Reilly. They're the voices behind all the work, really, and I'm the programs manager for the OurEcho Challenge.
Excellent. Thank you all. And oh my gosh, thank you to our high school presenters. You guys give us hope for the future. Absolutely. Great. All right, it looks like, let's see the poll. Wow, this is an interesting distribution. Got a little bit of everything. I love it. Fantastic. Well, great. Well, yeah, and we also in the chat pod, we welcome and encourage an active chat pod. So if you have questions anytime, feel free to share, ask questions. Glad that everybody is here. And yeah, we've got great distribution in terms of the poll. Lots of great diversity in educators, location, age. Fantastic. All right. So next slide. Yeah, so tonight it's an invitation really to everybody to make a difference in our world. Tonight we'll talk about tangible ways to serve your why in life and truly make an impact while serving something bigger than ourselves. I don't think it gets much better than that. So we'll get kicked off, and again, feel free in the chat pod to keep it active throughout. We welcome, excuse me, ideas, resources, questions, tips, and suggestions. Oh, I think I'm gonna. Can you tell it's allergy season where I live? Next slide. Wonderful pollen that's out there. So yeah, we invite everybody to turn their curiosity into impact of any age. We all have that curiosity. And of course, the young people, they innately seem to have it. And we know that interest in science is also catalyzed when we cultivate curiosity in science, nurturing that curiosity that relates to the natural world. And so citizen science, it's both doing science, so it's science, but it also makes a positive impact in terms of science learning. And so that's two of the reasons that I absolutely love it. Next slide. Yeah, so engagement in real world science, citizen science, and all of the projects and programs we'll talk about tonight, they let people do science, immerse in the process of science, the NGSS, Next Generation Science Standards, science practices. So it's all about doing science. We can think of a sports analogy, right? Like kids grow up playing soccer or other sports, they're doing it. But too often in the, in the elementary classroom, people are filling out science worksheets and, reading from a textbook. And so citizen science provides a great opportunity for everyone of any age to do science. And then it's action, right? I want to give a shout out to one of my early teachers, Mrs. Olson. She had a banner in the classroom that says, "Science is not a spectator sport." And I completely agree. So citizen science lets us do science. And so the projects and programs today will highlight ideas that do just that. Next slide. I think I've got another analogy. Yes, I do. Okay, now we're in a museum. So just stick with me. I have an analogy here. So does anyone recognize this artwork? I think some may. Yep. Yeah, and I think the actual title is Sunday at La Grande Jatte, Georgia Seurat, Pointillism. But and correct me if I know I did not pronounce names correctly, but so this picture is made up of individual dots, this art piece, and it formed a field of art called pointillism. So basically, when we're standing back, we see the big picture, a relaxing Sunday by the water, got critters out there, families. But if it was in a museum and you could go up to it, you would see individual dots combined to make this image. I think it's just a great analogy for citizen science, right? With all of our contributions and observations of science, it combines to give that big picture. It literally paints a snapshot of our natural world. And so if you ever need an analogy in your mind of what we'll be talking about tonight, think of each of us as one individual dot, and all those dots across the globe add up to a masterpiece. Next slide. And this is a great data visualization from the iNaturalist platform, and it's actual pictures of participants making up a globe. They have so many participants worldwide. I liked this visualization because it really captures that global community that are collectively helping to study our planet and its biodiversity, to study change over time, and provide data that the conservation field needs to guide management decisions in the 21st century and beyond, give ideas for future research, and so much more. Next slide. Oh, I love these, the snow geese. They're very accessible to me. They migrate really close to my house, so I do monitor them because they're very accessible. They stop by, during the season, during the migration. But I want to just mention birds and bird migration, because actually much of what the field of science knows about birds and specifically bird migration is all thanks to citizen science data. So the global citizen science data, especially when we talk about bird migration research, but other fields as well, when we're all involved in science, it actually increases, it accelerates the rate of research and the rate of science and potential scientific discoveries. So really powerful stuff. Next slide. Yeah, and so you will be helping answer questions at scale that one researcher or one lab group could not address by themselves. So all of us together, we're able to answer science questions that couldn't be done just by one person or like a research lab. So it's really exciting to be a part of. Next slide. Yeah, and so we're going to share how to connect to opportunities. And in fact, we'll go to the next slide. We've got the amazing Project Finder. So on SciStarter.org, we are all about science that we can do together. And so there's hundreds, thousands really of projects around the globe that you can go to the Project Finder and connect with. You can really like pick your passion tonight. So next slide. This is the actual, kind of a little snapshot of the Project Finder. And for educators out there, one thing that I really like about the Project Finder, you could search by age band. Does it have curricular materials? So you can kind of customize your search to what you're looking for. And actually, when I teach college students, sometimes I just tell them to go in there and pick a project. So lots of different usages for it. Next slide. Yeah, so we've mentioned it a little bit. We're going to talk about iNaturalist tonight, and Colleen has amazing experience with iNaturalist, like she said, from K to college and more. So it's an amazing global platform. It provides that technology that connects us, people, with nature and the outdoors. I know people are a part of nature too, but technology helps us all connect. And it helps provide that real-time snapshot of global biodiversity. And I really like that it helps give us a view of change over time as well, and insights related to that. Next slide. And this is iNaturalist on the SciStarter platform. So if you search in the SciStarter project finder, iNaturalist will pop up. You can see by all the hearts, it's quite popular. People love this one. And so it really, iNaturalist is harnessing locally engaged and globally connected citizen science. Next slide. And so citizen science in a nutshell, Colleen will take us through some amazing information and insights on the project, but just in a nutshell, it's data at scale. It's able to collect data at scale. It turns one of our pictures into data. And if we think about museums like 100 years ago, even 50 years ago, museums used to go out and collect data. And then in the 21st century, I feel like iNaturalist lets all of us contribute to scientific knowledge. Next slide. And so I'll just briefly go over this because I know Colleen has it in hers, but I'd like to summarize iNaturalist as, think of it as an observation, each data point, an observation at a place and time. So anybody can record and share these observations, and a picture becomes an observation. It becomes data. So it's a record of an organism, whether it's a plant or an animal or other, and it's wild animals, not domestic. I always like to go over that when I'm working with people new to iNaturalist. We don't take pictures of our adorable pets. So wild animals, plants, but it becomes data. It's a record of that organism at a place and at a time. And so they're shared in that global community of 21st century naturalists where the observation can be identified, also discussed, and it helps us give us a greater understanding of our amazing Earth's biodiversity. Next slide. And for students and educators out there, I always cover this when I'm doing school programs or even in my college classes. iNaturalist began as a student project. It was a graduate student project. So I urge anyone, if you're in a class and your teacher gives you choice in a project, please follow your passion. You could change the world. So if you're ever given choice in an assignment or project, go for it, because the founders of iNaturalist did that, and they're literally changing the world with what they created. So it's just amazing. It's and it's allowing all of us to be empowered to contribute observations and participate and interact on their amazing platform. Next slide. We probably won't talk about this too much. I just wanted to mention it. iNaturalist is always responding to users, and they have developed Seek by iNaturalist for our youngest learners, where they can kind of practice in a safe environment on the Seek platform, but it's by iNaturalist. So if you have young relatives or you teach really young students, definitely check out Seek. But since for the City Nature Challenge, we'll be using iNaturalist, we'll focus on that as the tool. Next slide. And they offer great challenges on Seek too, like fun games and things like that. It's awesome. Even some adults like it because it does really good identification. If you're just hiking, you're like, what's that plant? They have AI that can give you pretty good. It's pretty good. I have never seen it mess up. And then you're probably like, what is on my screen now, Jill? So with iNaturalist, there are so many discoveries. Literally, we could have gone through dozens of these stories. I just picked just two. I know Colleen has, I'll let her cover it. But on the platform, there's discoveries of new species, rare species, invasive species, threatened, so many discoveries. Check out on the iNaturalist.org. That's their homepage. They have a blog, and that's where they'll give great updates. It's a great blog. So I have two brief ones to share, and you're looking at the first one. They called this, there was like some trending thing called the toilet weasel. This was a number of years ago, pre-pandemic. But the blog post that iNaturalist put out on this was called The Elusive Colombian Weasel. So the story behind this one, this was posted on iNaturalist. A young man in Colombia in South America, he was at his parents' country home and saw this critter. And he was like, huh. He took a picture, he put it on iNaturalist, and wow, this critter, what we found out once it was on iNaturalist and the global community was discussing it, observing it, this critter is so rare. It was rediscovered in that area with this observation. It had never been photographed alive. There was no records of it before this, sitting in a home's toilet on top of it. And so it's amazing. And happy story, they did let him out and he escaped. So, but just really cool. Like the stories are so fun. And then next slide, I'll share you another just little fun story. This was in my neck of the woods. Yeah, this is the story of, I just call it the two Sams and the invasive emerald ash borer on iNaturalist. So as I mentioned, I live north of Dallas and Fort Worth. This story happened in the Fort Worth area, which we call Tarrant County. That's the county it's in. And so Sam Kieschnick, he's on the right, that's Big Sam, and he is Sam Biology on iNaturalist. He's amazing. He's my local, the North Texas local urban wildlife biologist. So he's amazing. And then on the left, we have Sam Hunt. He was 10 or 11 at the time this picture was taken. And Sam Hunt lives in Tarrant County, the Fort Worth area. So Sam, I think he was on his driveway and he saw this invertebrate. And so he's like, I'm going to take a picture. Ultimately, they were curious enough about it, doing internet research and stuff like that, that he just decided, I'm going to get it on it got on iNaturalist. Well, that caused so much discussion and buzz. And entomology experts, people who study insects, they were like, this could be the invasive species emerald ash borer, which had not been documented anywhere in this area. So that's a concern for a number of reasons. The first sighting of an invasive species, and it was confirmed. And actually, I have to say, since then, there have been other sightings of them, but it immediately changed. Once it was verified, it resulted in like timber management practices, changes in that. So thank you, Sam Hunt, for connecting with local experts, posting it on iNaturalist, and he was an early detector of an invasive species that could cause damage to the native habitat. So amazing stuff. Literally, people of all ages are contributing to what we know about our natural world. So next slide. Yeah, so we just want to leave you an invitation to get involved in the City Nature Challenge. It's on iNaturalist. It starts next week, actually 1 week from now. And then next slide, I'll give you the dates. You can mark your calendar. Yeah, so it starts 1 week from today. It's a 4-day BioBlitz followed by an identification period. I think the winner will be announced, I think, on May 8th globally. Having said that, everybody wins, right? Everybody's getting involved in uploading data, so everybody wins. But it is a friendly competition to see who takes the cake. And they have a lot of categories too, which is fun. Now, gosh, what is it? Cape Town, South Africa. Wow, that team has been a powerhouse lately, so they're one to watch. So we'll all have fun with that. Next slide. Now, I am so honored and excited to turn it over and welcome Dr. Colleen Hitchcock. And Colleen, I put a little snapshot of your City Nature Challenge team, Team Boston. So welcome, Colleen. I'll turn it over to you.
Awesome. Hey, everybody. Thanks, Jill, for that introduction. So I am joining from just north of Boston. I'm a faculty member at Brandeis University, and I've been asked to share a little bit of my experience as an educator using iNaturalist and doing the City Nature Challenge with students. In addition to teaching at the university, I also have worked with students K through 12, local educators, pre-service teachers, in-service teachers doing citizen science, and have also worked with Girl Scouts doing their citizen science journey. And so lots of different age groups kind of getting involved. And I can say that on all fronts, it's always fun and it's always exciting to explore nature using iNaturalist for sure. Next slide. Okay, so I'm going to expand a little bit on the definition that Jill gave us for iNaturalist. And so one of the really nice things about iNaturalist is that it really is a social network of people. I know we're here for a citizen science webinar, and science is really the byproduct of what you do on iNaturalist. And so it's that coming together as a community, interacting with other people on that community, and learning about nature. That's really kind of central to what iNaturalist is, and what really makes it a nice tool to use as an educator. In addition to that, yes, it's also a crowdsourced species identification system and an organism occurrence or species occurrence recording tool. But all of that is a byproduct of people going outside, interacting with nature, and making those connections. So the primary goal is to really get people out connecting with nature. And then that secondary goal, or that byproduct of people connecting with nature, is the data and the discoveries that they make. Next slide. Okay, so there's lots of reasons to use iNaturalist. And so I invite you, if you haven't already interacted with the platform, to go ahead and get involved. It's a great way to learn about the biodiversity that's around you, to start making those nature connections. It's a way to keep track of what you're seeing. It's a way to meet community members. There's lots of people that you get to meet on iNaturalist. I met Sam Biology on iNaturalist, and then I got to meet him in real life. And so that was like meeting a superstar rock star for me on iNaturalist. And so those are definitely things that happen. You make those connections and you start to build and rebuild community. I found lots of people I knew in real life from past times that have come back to interact with me on iNaturalist. You also, yes, do in fact become a citizen scientist, and then you can even move up in the world to some extent and organize BioBlitz or projects, or keep track of things. And projects can be big, they can be small, they can be all these fun ways. But really, for new users, it's about being that budding naturalist. And this is like having, that relative that would take you for nature walks. Well, you have that relative now in the form of inside your phone that will help you identify what you're seeing. And for experienced naturalists, you get to help create that community. And you also work toward making these observations that are scientifically valuable. Next slide, please. Okay, the other really fun thing about iNaturalist is it is an open platform, and it's an open science platform. And so what that means is you make an observation and it's instantly shareable and viewable by other members of the iNaturalist community. So you can share it with those community members. You can talk with those community members. And it's completely in this open science way, in that data is both within iNaturalist, but it also flows some other places. Now, if you are working with students, you do need to take some precautions using iNaturalist, since you are putting them into this open science platform, which might be, especially if you're working with the under 13 set, where Seek comes in, because it has some safety protections that will help you comply with COPPA. So if you are working with younger students, definitely check out Seek. There's a way that you can push your observations from Seek to iNaturalist so that they become data, but you want to be wary of that as well, or be aware of that, not wary. The other fun thing about iNat is you can use it on your phone. You can use your phone like a digital camera, and you can also use it on the web platform. So there's lots of ways to interact once you've captured that photo of the thing you want to make an observation on. Okay, let's go next slide, please. So what does that biodiscovery learning tool look like? Well, it's exactly like Jill said. You can make an observation. You provide some evidence of that observation. Typically, it's a photo. It can also be a sound recording. And then you can actually interact with the platform if you're using the app in the field, or when you come back and you upload that photo to your computer and onto the platform. iNaturalist will help you identify things, and so it will make suggestions for you. So you get to name the thing that you saw, and then it also records where you saw it and when you saw it, and all of that becomes useful information to the science community as you're making those identifications. Next slide. When we think about how those observations then become useful science research, it's really that key thing that I said earlier, that this is part of an open science process. So iNaturalist is part of a network of open biodiversity resources, which means that once the community on iNaturalist agrees that an observation is this thing that it is named. And 2/3 of the iNaturalist community agree on that identification. Then it also flows out of iNaturalist into global biodiversity repositories, and it gets this label called research grade. And that's really useful to scientists who are maybe detecting invasive species, like we just heard in that case of the 2 SAMs, or maybe looking for rediscovering species, etc. So a really great tool to kind of connect what you're seeing in the natural world to the science that's going on around you. Next slide. Okay, go ahead and you can click these through so that they all come on. Since I'm not, yeah, thank you. And so when you move through a observation, how does it get to this kind of identification and agreement level? Well, there's back and forth between the community, and that's what you're looking at on the left-hand side of this slide. You're seeing those interactions. On the right-hand side, you're seeing how many members of the community have interacted with us. And then you see there, it gets this research grade flag, and it flows out of iNaturalist. Next slide. Here again are those key steps that Jill has already mentioned and I have said as well, right? When you're using iNaturalist, you submit evidence. That evidence is a photo or a recording. It says who you are. You need an account to use iNaturalist. You indicate where you saw something, when you saw something, and you name it, that thing, what you saw. Okay, and so those things together are just like those collections in natural history museums that form species occurrence data. Next slide. The key things with using iNaturalist in terms of getting a good observation is you want to start with observing wild organisms. Ideally, when you put something in that frame, you want to focus on one focal species in that observation. The photo should be clear, and if you know it, you should name it. The key barrier to getting people to interact with you on iNaturalist is not naming your observations. So you should always name it something that you're comfortable calling it. So if all you know is that the thing you took a picture of is an animal, it's fine to call it an animal. It's so much better to call it an animal than to leave it kind of as an unknown, because the rest of the community will start interacting with you. And you can also use the AI, which will make suggestions for you. There's a great organization up here in Boston called Earthwise Aware, who's one of our co-organizers for the City Nature Challenge, and they have lots of tutorials on kind of good ways to take photos that are ethical so that we're not harming the species that we're trying to detect. And they also have lots of tutorials on making observations with different types of devices. So I encourage you to check out Earthwise Aware as well. Let's go to the next slide, and I'll touch on a few more key things for educators. When you start observing, you never know what you're going to see, okay? And so one of the first things that I tell new users when they join iNaturalist, you don't have to wait for that really cool thing. You can observe that eastern gray squirrel that you see every day at lunchtime. You can observe that tree outside your window, the dandelion in the front lawn. All of those wild organisms that humans aren't caring for, those are the things we want to document. And some of the most valuable observing is going to be the things that we see every day, in addition to the things that we perhaps discover or surprise us. It's great to have those surprises as well, but we also need those baseline observations. Next slide. Now, one of the key learning things that I take away from using iNaturalist, and so this is from a paper that I worked on with some colleagues. I saw we had somebody here from New Zealand, and I worked with a colleague from New Zealand on this paper and another colleague in New York City, who we all work with college-age students using iNaturalist. And really the core learning objectives that we want students, why we engage them on iNaturalist, is we have kind of this three-prong approach. We think about it as bioliteracy. So students have this appreciation for the natural world, but they don't always have the skills to say what they're observing. And so iNaturalist is a way to build bioliteracy.
And on that left-hand side of the screen, in case you're really kind of confused as to what all of those images are, on iNaturalist, you add a little icon or avatar that represents who you are. And what we did was we looked at our students who used iNaturalist within our classes, and then how many observations they made after they left our classes, or how long they stayed on iNaturalist. And then we made those images the size of that footprint on iNaturalist. So that really big thing that's kind of black and blurry is a fly, and that's a student who went on to make hundreds of thousands of observations and is a curator on the site now. And then you can see some of those larger images over there. So lots of students stay on once they learn about this bioliteracy tool, and they're hooked. They like getting out, learning about nature and observing it. Biodiscovery is exactly what Jill just described to us, that idea of these new discoveries that students make. And so what we did was we looked at the signature of our students in our local areas. And what we found was that they were making biodiscoveries. They were discovering species of ants that hadn't been documented, in my case, in Massachusetts previously, and had only infrequently been documented in the United States. They were finding other types of rare insects, centipedes, that there was very limited information on. And so highlighting for them that they were part of this biodiscovery was one of the biggest thrills that we see students responding to when they get involved on the platform. And then finally, data literacy. And so being able to use the visualization tools within iNaturalist to show students the distribution of species richness, which species are where. My colleague in New Zealand, he had been using iNaturalist with students, and when they had the earthquake, I'm going to not remember what year that was it 2017, 2018, they had been collecting data on butterfly, or they had iNaturalist butterfly data from campus pre-earthquake. After the earthquake, there was some new habitat that opened up for this rare species of butterfly, and their population started to rebound. And then unfortunately, the university started to rebuild buildings, and they saw a population decline of this rare species. And all of that was using iNaturalist, and they were able to detect it through the data visualization tools. Next slide. This is the story I think Jill was alluding to earlier. This is a real charismatic one of the Holy Mola, a worldwide connection where school children discovered this really large fish washed up on shore. There was a kind of global interaction that you can read through there in the discourse back and forth on iNaturalist, essentially indicating this was the first record of this species in the Northern Hemisphere since 1889. So again, these great moments of biodiscovery. And so if you want to get students excited, helping them discover the natural world, not just learn about it for themselves, but make these discoveries, it's a great marriage for sure. And it's really about nurturing community. Next slide. And here what we're looking at is some images of some middle school and high school students that I've worked with over the years, where we have started a project looking at biodiversity in our hometown. And these students, they learned about iNaturalist, they talked with community members, they organized a BioBlitz, and they really became a community that was here on iNaturalist, but also together in the real world. Next slide. And these students started this data collection back in, looks like it's cut off a little bit, back in 2016. And there's already 10,000 observations in our small 3 mile square town, where over 1,600 species have been documented. This data is now used by our Conservation Commission. So it really kind of comes full circle in terms of being useful. Let's talk just quickly about the City Nature Challenge, since it's happening next week. Next slide, and how you can get involved. I am one of the organizers for the Boston City Nature Challenge, and we have a number of organizations that do organize around that. Next slide. But the CNC is this 4-day BioBlitz. It started about 8 years ago between San Francisco and LA by the Natural History Museum and the California Academy of Sciences. They wanted to kind of get their communities interested. Boston joined in 2017 when it was just 16 cities. And I think this year we're at over 450 cities. Next slide. When we think about what iNaturalist can do, it's really about bringing people together and connecting with urban biodiversity. I'm not going to go through all of the specifics on this slide, but let's start looking at some of the numbers of how we've grown. Next slide. Essentially, you can see there's this kind of exponential almost growth over time as more cities have gotten involved. It is, next slide, one of the spikes in use on iNaturalist, and the really amazing thing about it, and so you can see how that graph goes up and up, and those spikes are each of the CNCs over the past 7-8 years, and you can see that the baseline returns to higher. So the CNC is a great time to get involved in iNaturalist and then hopefully stay involved and keep monitoring your local biodiversity. How it works, next slide, is that you can observe biodiversity between April 28th and May 1st. That's the first phase. And then all of the organizers in cities work to help identify what everybody went out and observed for that 4-day period from May 2nd through May 7th. After that, the winning cities are, in fact, kind of given these shout outs, but in my mind, it's really not a City Nature Challenge. It's about city nature collaboration and us learning about urban biodiversity. There have been lots of scientific research that now has come out of this, looking at the distribution of species in and around cities. Next slide. Okay, I wasn't sure. I thought I was going to skip one. Okay. The fun thing about iNaturalist is that you can be prepared to be surprised. So here we're looking at an observation that was from one of the Boston CNCs. This is of, and you can see it has that little red flag, EN. It means it was an endangered species that was documented during the CNC. Next slide. Another fun surprise, we had this day flying bat, which was a fun one to kind of see coming in during the CNC. Things that people get excited about. So people are excited out in the field, and then we're excited when we're back behind our computers, seeing all of the cool things that everybody else is exploring. With that, I'm going to hand it back to Jill to transition to the next part.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Colleen. I do it every year, but you got me. I can't wait for next week now. I just need to be prepared to not sleep for 4 days because that always happens.
It is an intense 4-day period of running around and trying to observe everything and all of the places where you know things are going to be so that you can get the observations you know and then see what you can discover. So it's definitely a great challenge.
Exactly. And you guys, Team Boston, oh my gosh, watch them in the leaderboards. What an active community in documenting nature.
It's still cold in Boston, but we do hold our own for a number of participants. So we rally our community, and that is our stronghold for sure.
Fantastic. I love it. Well, great. Well, yeah, next slide. And I will turn it over to the amazing Team OurEcho presenters. We cannot wait. So I will turn it over to you guys. Thank you guys so much.
Hi, my name is Reilly Hollern. I'm an 11th grade student at Windermere Prep, and I'm in Orlando, Florida.
And hi again, everyone. I'm Harper Fortgang. As I said before, I'm a freshman at the Nueva School, and I'm from San Francisco. And I'm really passionate about using innovative solutions to protect our biodiversity. Next slide, please. Next slide. Both Reilly and I are part of an organization called OurEcho International that was founded by Philippe and Alexandra Cousteau, who are grandchildren of Jacques Cousteau, the famous ocean explorer. And OurEcho aims to support our generation to become environmental leaders. They've reached more than 2 million people in 146 countries. Their mission is to build a movement all over the world to protect and restore our ocean. And they do this through programs like the Water Challenge, a Youth Leadership Council, and the OurEcho Challenge, which was a competition that both Reilly and I were part of. And Reilly will talk more about that.
So next slide. The OurEcho Challenge is a STEM competition that empowers students to take a closer look at biodiversity in their communities. Students will identify threats to local ecosystems and then propose solutions to help preserve, protect, or repair those natural resources. We are both previous winners, as Harper said, and we've received grant funding through the OurEcho Challenge, and we want to tell you more about our projects. So next slide.
So in 2020, I started Team Superplants, and we were one of the OurEcho Challenge winners. We created Project Superplants, which aims to educate students about the threats of CO2 emissions, activate them to grow superplants, and mobilize them to take action in their schools, homes, and communities. The project started when I was learning about photosynthesis and school, and a light bulb went off in my head. I wondered, could we enhance and supercharge plants' intake of CO2 during photosynthesis to combat climate change? And I learned about incredible super plants that grow larger root systems to intake more CO2 for increased carbon sequestration. And I was learning about this at the same time that here in the Bay Area, we could literally see and feel climate change. Wildfires were painting the sky orange. Ash was like literally coating the ground. I wanted to take action to protect the environment and share this amazing science behind super plants with other students. Next slide, please. So Project Super Plants heads into classrooms across Northern California to run sessions in elementary, middle, and high school classrooms about the threats of CO2 emissions and the science behind super plants. And then students grow super plants in their school gardens. These sessions are a foundation for ongoing activism, and it's really inspiring to work with all of these students. One school in Rohnert Park, after our session, wrote letters to their city council and spread posters around their community to advocate for growing super plants. And in addition to classroom sessions, we run a wide range of other events, a booth at the North Bay Science Discovery Day, a science festival, presenting to other high schoolers about youth activism efforts, and partnering with nonprofits and advocacy organizations. We're a team of 11 high schoolers from all across the Bay Area, and we've reached over 1,000 students, grown around 16,000 super plant seeds, and connected with tons of teachers. Next slide, please. We hope that you will join us to create a wave of planting activism. Teachers, we would love to run 45-minute classroom sessions in your schools. Other youth, you can help connect us with teachers at your school or your previous middle or elementary school. And organizations, we'd love to partner with you to expand our reach. So please contact us if you have any questions about our project or you're interested in getting involved. You can see our website, email, and Instagram on the slide. So thank you, and I'll pass it to Reilly to talk about her project.
Next slide. So hi again, I'm Reilly Hollern, and I'm World Perspective Solutions Club President and Marketing Manager. And we were the 2020 first place winners of the OurEcho Challenge. Next slide. So a little bit about us. We are a club at Windermere Prep in Orlando, Florida, where we have worked to study the effects of harmful algal blooms and find a way to bioremediate the problem. Next slide. So just a little background, when we initially started the club in 9th grade, we were studying biodiversity and the negative effects of population growth and urbanization. Florida, where we are based, has the 3rd largest state population, which is 22.25 million people. The increase by urbanization unfortunately leads to numerous negative implications that cause harmful algal blooms. Next slide. Population growth is inevitable and increasing at rapid rates. So we decided to create a bioremediation device that would work to grow beneficial algae to outcompete the harmful algal blooms caused by urbanization. As you can see in the top right corner, there is a bird's eye view of our campus. This is an arrow pointing to a specific body of water. There is where we decided to test our design. In the image below, our design is actually being placed in the pond. The design has a colorful top plate to catch the eyes of those walking across the bridge. On the left are our 2 most successful substrates, which we've entitled brick and fork patterns. When originally testing our design, we were trying to see how much algae would grow on each of these substrates. We wanted a lot of beneficial algae to grow such that it can grow successfully work to outcompete the harmful algae. The different patterns are testing which surface successfully grows the most algae, removing phosphates and nitrates from the water. Next slide. So what have we done so far? Next slide. In the year 2020, when our club was first starting, we entered the OurEcho Challenge that provides students with a platform to fund their research. We won first place and were awarded a $5,000 grant. The money went towards equipment we would need to research and a merch line that would be sold to students on and off campus in order to further share the word. When we initially started, we also started an Instagram knowing how powerful it can be if used as a tool. Next slide. In 2022, we started the year presenting at the Brevard Zoo at an OurEcho teacher conference, which allowed us to meet some really great people and sell a few hoodies from our 2022's merch line. We also had the opportunity to present our work to the heads of North Anglia education organization that our school is a part of. We ended the school year with our first annual research day that allowed the 9th grade students an opportunity to engage in activities they learned in the classroom that we brought a real world implication to. Next slide. This year, we had the amazing opportunity to travel to Costa Rica and replicate our research in 2 locations. We traveled to Country Day School, a sister school of Windermere Prep, and met Miss Daza, who was willing to replicate our study on their campus. We also decided to replicate it in 2 ponds at Rancho Margot, a beautiful sustainable ranch located in La Fortuna. The water samples we collected will be sent to Dr. Bishop at CPRO Corporation, who we worked with when we initially tested our research. In March, we hosted our 2nd annual research day for the 9th grade class, and it was super exciting to see the students apply what they learned in the classroom. Next slide. In this project, marketing has been one of the most vital resources in order to grow our platform and spread awareness. We have been able to make so many meaningful and beneficial connections over the last few years that have led to amazing opportunities. When we started our project, we wanted to have a place for any interest to be useful. We understood that science and studying the effects of harmful algal blooms doesn't interest everyone, and that's why we made sure that our club was multifaceted. Our most popular, arguably the most important, was social media, and we started this in 2020 when we began, and you've used it as a platform to share our journey in hopes that our idea would one day help people. We know that Instagram is a powerful tool and can be positively used to share meaningful content, and for that reason, we have used it to share our journey with you. Next slide, please. So thank you so much for listening. I have my number on the screen as well as my club email and personal email, and we would love it if you follow our Instagram. Thank you so much for listening.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Reilly and Harper. Oh my gosh. You guys are so inspiring. Oh my gosh. I want you to come talk to my college students. Thank you so much. Like, that's so inspirational. You guys saw an issue, you researched it, you took action. What a great model. I think 21st century, like education in our 21st century and beyond, like I wish curriculum would encourage that, right? That is awesome, where students can follow a passion and just tackle it from all angles. Thank you both so much. And actually, we had a question come in from the audience. Harper, folks want to know more about super plants. We posted the link to the project, but I think the question, and correct me if I'm wrong, audience, was you wanted to know about more of the types of plants. Was that what the question was? I think it was. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so super plants are plants that naturally grow larger root systems to intake more CO2. And we're using California native grasses like California mallet grass that have larger root systems and have adapted to California wildfire and drought conditions to have more durable root systems. And scientists at the Salk Institute in Southern California are also creating genetically modified super plants that can grow larger and more durable root systems too. So they're native and GMO super plants.
Oh, thank you, Harper. Fantastic. Yeah, and that's kind of connects. We talked last week about carbon sources and carbon sinks. So it's like a carbon sink. That's awesome, which is a good thing for our planet and us. Excellent. Oh my gosh, you guys give me hope for the future is in good hands. And oh, I think we have a Q&A question. Did something come in? Let me pull this up. Oh, thanks, Casey. Casey posted links to get involved. Let's see.
And then I'm sorry, but we also wanted to mention the OurEcho challenge that's happening this year. So we had a few more slides that Harper was going to go over.
Yeah, this webinar is happening like at the perfect time because next week, OurEcho is going to be announcing the finalist teams for this year's OurEcho challenge. Students from all over the US and for the first time from the UK have been looking at the biodiversity in their communities and like us have proposed projects to protect their biodiversity. one of the most amazing parts I think about being in the OurEcho community is that we're connected with a network of youth from Florida to Illinois, and from Massachusetts to California, and that's been really amazing. So we hope that you all will participate in this community and maybe even enter the OurEcho Challenge next year.
Next slide. So stay tuned to all of OurEcho's channels as they announce these brilliant young leaders next week. Next slide.
Also, shameless plug, OurEcho is a SciStarter affiliate. So if you participate in OurEcho with the same email address you use to make your SciStarter account, your contributions track back to your dashboard. Same with iNaturalist, it's also an affiliate.
Excellent. Perfect. Oh my gosh, thank you all so much. And in fact, we can go to the next slide. Keep those questions coming. We've got 5 minutes for questions and I'm happy to stay over. Thank you all so much. Oh my gosh, okay, it's Earth Day Eve, because at first I thought Earth Day was tomorrow, but it's Saturday. So it's happy Earth Day Eve. I'm so inspired. Keep those questions coming. Our experts can answer them. Reilly, Harper, and Dr. Hitchcock. And if you've got questions, we're happy to help. Be sure and complete your survey. And we're here next week again, same time in Zoom. And we're going to encourage everyone to keep this going all year round. I think we saw some good models of that tonight with our webinar called Bring Science Home All Year Round. We truly want Earth Day to be every day. And we believe it's possible because of folks like you out there. We really do. So thank you everyone for coming. Let us know what questions you have. I know you got everybody has ideas. Let's see, check the chat pod.
And I'm just going to pitch in real quick and remind everybody that everyone here is a nonprofit. We're all working really hard to bring free citizen science out there. So take the survey, join the mailing lists, visit the websites, follow us on social media. And, if you have a little money, please donate to these wonderful organizations. Because your support really helps make this all happen. So I'm just going to put in that plug for all these amazing folks that are here tonight helping us out and sharing this wonderful content.
Fantastic. And Reilly and Harper, do you want to share, do you have career goals in this area, or just will you continue, do you have career goals in other areas, but you'll keep up your action? What do you guys think? I know you still have much time to make your career decisions. I just figured I'd ask.
I know that with my club at my school, we've done a lot of events this year. So that's how I've been kind of doing that. I'm not really sure career-wise. I'm kind of just doing what I'm doing right now, but I really enjoyed organizing events that get the youth involved, especially the younger kids. So
it's fantastic. You guys are already making a difference in the world. And Harper, what about you?
I'm really passionate about science, so I think it would really be cool to go into biology or some other field of science. I'm also interested in combining that with political activism and political lobbying. So hopefully make that in the future.
Amazing.
We had a question come in on Facebook.
Sure.
And the question is, Reilly, have you worked with the Florida Oceanographic Society and their Seagrass initiative? Because it seems like that project could be used in conjunction with what you're doing.
So no, I have not, but I'm glad that I've now been introduced to that, because I think that we'll definitely reach out and see if we can do something. So I think whoever noted that, so that we can reach out and maybe do something.
Love it. Future collab. And we did have a Q&A come in. Michelle, thanks for asking. Yes, we have a list of references, resources, links, so we'll get that to you guys. And then, another question, algal results, any algae results yet that you'd like to share from the project? I know algal blooms are happening everywhere. We see them when the weather heats up. Nice. I think it was years ago I did Cyano Tracker, but I don't know if that project's active anymore. It was an NSF-funded algal bloom citizen science project with University of Georgia, I think. I could be wrong, but excellent. Oh, thanks, Sandy. I'm catching up in the webinar chat. Great stuff. Any other questions? I don't want to miss any. remember, we like to foster curiosity, so all questions welcome all the time.
It looks like there was a question earlier. Someone said they're from New York, but they can't plant California native plants. If you're interested in planting super plants that are native to other states, please email us and we can talk about, we'd love to help you find super plants and carbon gardening methods for your state.
Oh, thanks, Harper. Yes. Oh my gosh, great idea. Great connection. Fantastic. Well, thank you all so much for coming tonight. Presenters, thank you. Attendees, everybody. We'll all make the world a better place. I know that for sure. And have a great Earth Day. We'll stay on for any questions, but just want to thank everybody for coming. You're all so amazing. Thank you guys. Have a great evening or wherever you are in the world. It's evening where I'm from.
Thank you, especially to Jill and Sam. I appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. Reilly and Harper and Colleen and Jill and Caroline for all of your work. Just a great team effort. And Casey, I'm sorry, I almost forgot Casey. So thank you, everybody. Science Friday really appreciates you. And I hope that we can all keep on working together and maybe do some more fun projects like this. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks,
A
everyone.
shout out as well to our editors and captioners. We appreciate you and we'll see you next week. Bye all.
Bye, everyone.